report.
Here we dive deep into recent Demigod news, upcoming presents books, questions only Zeus knows the answer to, and all other things Riordan. I'm Samuel, your co-host.
And I'm Diego, your other co-host.
So, yesterday, Diego and I went to go see The Lightning Thief.
It was very good.
Yes, we highly recommend it. If you are going to be in New York anytime between now and January, have to check it out. And so we decided to do a bit of a special episode on it.
So in this episode, we're just going to be talking about our thoughts and feelings about scenes, songs, and everything in between.
Yeah, so it's going to be less of our sort of news roundup on Demigod and more of just like a longer sort of talk about The Lightning Thief.
Yeah. So a rough synopsis of the musical, for those of you who didn't see it. Just the things that are kind of different from the book. They omit a couple of scenes. They decided to leave out the poodle in New Jersey.
The poodle wasn't in New Jersey. It was at the bridge. The
No. The poodle that they found in the middle of the woods that Grover talked to. That then they returned it.
Yes, that.
For the Amtrak tickets. Yeah. They also decided to omit most of the journey from New York to LA. They kind of showed a couple of choice scenes of them bumping into Ares and them bumping into the Chimera, but they didn't really delve deeper. It was kind of a little like small meet and greet, but I thought it was very well done how they did it because they put things that were really important in and little like bitty moments without having to get like dragged on along the way of the entire journey.
Yeah, and so it is like a short, like a 2-hour-ish play, so you can't fit everything inside of it. But I think they did a good job. Like, if they didn't include a scene, they made a good job of at least referencing it, putting a short Easter egg, or like just making sure it was there in some shape or form. It may not have been extended to the length that it was in the book. It may not have been I guess as deep or like they didn't give a whole song to every scene, right? They just can't do that. But they did include pretty much all the scenes I could remember. And if they didn't include those scenes, they still like made it like what you were saying about the poodle, the poodle that gave them Amtrak tickets. They still got tickets from a squirrel.
Yeah.
So
it was a very, very funny scene. A really like high pitched squirrel. It was one of my favorite scenes, honestly. And we were very highly debating whether or not to get the little squirrel stuffed animal from the gift shop after.
Yeah, if you saw our Instagram, they made like a stuffed squirrel, and then they put like a little T-shirt on it that said Percy Jackson the Lightning Thief on this tiny stuffed squirrel. Like it could fit in your hand, and you could just like cover it up. It was cute, but I'm sure you realized it before. I just realized it was the same squirrel from the one in the play.
Well, it was. And also, it was quite an expensive squirrel.
It was a very expensive
It was
squirrel.
a costly squirrel.
If someone goes to see The Lightning Thief and instead of spending their money on a T-shirt or mug, or is smart and doesn't spend any of their money, if someone just buys that squirrel, for me that would be like, or not even for me, just if you buy the squirrel and like tweet at us and show us.
The squirrel is just amazing.
We'll make a special episode just for you.
Just for the squirrel. We'll have a vlog on the squirrel. We'll take it for a tour of NYC. But they did omit the scene of Annabeth and Percy in the kind of like Love Shack weird theme park that was shut down.
Oh yes, I okay. So the water park is the one thing that I was upset that they left out. But to be fair, I actually reread The Lightning Thief pretty recently, and before I reread it, I actually didn't remember the water park scene. And so, while I think it's a really good scene, adds to the development of the two characters, definitely foreshadows their romance, and is just a great moment where Annabeth and I think Percy working together really shines. That water park scene, as well as just being a good scene, I do think that if you were to cut one scene, that like might have to be it, because I just
Yeah.
didn't remember it before I reread the book.
It was a funny scene and foreshadowed a lot of like the Arachne stuff and their romance. But yeah, as Sam said, the character building was very clear. So I didn't think that they needed the scene either.
Well, I mean, I think the book needs the scene, but
Yeah,
the musical,
debatable.
debatable. Um, we're on the same side of the debate, so we don't need to debate it. But it is.
Yeah.
If you disagree with us and you're like crazy angry that they excluded the water park scene,
Like,
we're open to talking about it.
yeah. And then afterwards, they show up at DOA. They also chose to omit the scene where they get stretched on the mattresses. At what's his name?
Krusty's.
Yeah, Krusty's. Where they get stretched on the mattresses. They chose to omit that. I'm not really sure why. I guess it was just a choice. The other thing that I noticed was the scene where like I think Percy like pulls out his sword in front of a couple mortals. That was a lightning thief, right? Like
I think he does that multiple times
he does it
throughout the
multiple times.
throughout the 10
Throughout,
books.
Yeah, throughout all the books, but he does it like a couple of kids are like ganging up on them, and like he like pulls out his sword or something.
Okay, but that was less of a scene and more of it. That was just when they were setting the stage for LA.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. It was little things like that. I thought the fight for Ares was like really well staged. I liked how they did it with all three characters fighting instead of just Percy. They really brought that more of a like trio feel as opposed to mainly Percy doing the action. And I thought that really like all of the characters complement each other really well. And it was a lot better with all three of them there, and it prompted for some interesting stage combat that I really appreciated.
Yeah, speaking of which, the choreography of that was just amazing. I have to say, definitely if you I think the song that best did this was probably I'll Put You in Your Place. And that's the Capture the Flag song where Ares is going against the Athena and Hermes cabin, and I think that battle choreography was done really well in that specific one, and it really I like how they like used rock to like sort of through the Ares theme. Like every time Ares or one of his kids showed up, it was like the music switched to rock.
Yeah, it was. I like that as well. It kind of emphasized that Uncle Rick put a lot of the times like punk rock when they were talking about Ares, and I think that it really suits his character well. The other thing that we want to talk about is toilet paper. The use of toilet paper in the play was amazing. It was really creative because since the toilet paper was white and you shone blue lights on it, it really looked like water.
Okay,
they
if
used the toilet paper as water throughout the entire play.
yeah, so when Percy splashes Clarice with the toilet water, that's toilet paper. And when Percy throws a wave at Ares during the big fight, that's also toilet paper.
Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. It was obviously fun to like catch and try to like reach at in the audience, but it was also like it's an interesting choice because I always wondered how they would stage like moving water and like Percy controlling water, and I thought that was a very good choice with how they did it.
Yeah. So, what was your favorite song, Diego?
Well, my personal favorite was the DOA song. Let me see if I can get the name real quick. But that was kind of like the entry song for their arrival at DOA Records, and I really just like loved that song. In the soundtrack, it's kind of
So that is literally just called DOA.
yeah, DOA. But in the soundtrack, when you listen to it on Spotify or Apple Music, whatever it is that you listen to music on, it's a depleted version of the actual song. When you see it in person, there's a lot more like acting and lights, and the actual like movement on stage is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that of course goes for literally any musical. Just hearing the soundtrack is never going to compare to actually seeing
Mm-hmm.
the play. But I think sometimes there are songs where that just specifically really stands out, and I think DOA is a good example of that because it's sort of this like hip hop song with lots of dancing, puppets coming on stage,
Yeah,
and sort of like Cerberus, and
they
that's
have like
not like fully shown when you just listen to a soundtrack.
yeah, and also I found really weird when listening to the soundtrack that there was like a weird like rhythmic tapping in the background for like a couple of songs that I like didn't notice when watching the musical, but it's just like a little thing that I
Yeah,
happened
well,
to.
when you have like dancing and actors in front of you, you're not going to
Yeah,
notice everything that the band is doing, but like they still are doing it. So,
yeah. What was your favorite song?
my favorite song. I don't know. I had a couple. So, I did besides just the dancing, I did really like Put You in Your Place, which was the Capture the Flag song. I liked that one. Uh I liked The Day I Got Expelled. Um I thought it was a good setup because there's a lot of stuff that happens in the first few chapters that they just had to um, get through. And then finally, I guess what maybe my favorite song or tied for my favorite song was um, My Grand Plan.
Oh yeah,
And so that's basically Annabeth's solo song when she kind of explains to Percy how she wants to be the best demigod and sort of the hero of Olympus at one point.
yeah.
And
For that song, I didn't I didn't really like the actual content of the song. I get how they were trying to like emphasize that Annabeth like was very what was her fatal flaw was like thinking that she could do everything like better.
hubris.
Yeah, hubris. Um, but I personally I think that it had to be emphasized, but maybe not really in the first in the Lightning Thief. More later on.
Well,
But
okay, so I kind of disagree. So the point of the song, I feel, was there are lots of times as because the Lightning Thief is the setup book, the book that brought us everything after, and so in the Lightning Thief, if you read it, I mean, I'm assuming you have read it, but just looking at it, there are lots of moments during car trips when they're in the back of that zoo truck, like when they're just walking. There are lots of points when Annabeth and Percy have just sort of deep, real talks with each other, and um, it's kind of hard to do that in a musical because you can't have all these deep talks between two characters when you're trying to like move along with a bunch of like fast and fun songs. And so I liked how they sort of gave us this sort of Annabeth solo, which was meant to sort of interpret Annabeth's conversations with Percy
yeah,
and to sort of like showing how they build their friendship and showing how Annabeth and Percy develop like a more deep relationship with Annabeth, telling Percy her sort of deeper wishes and fears and thoughts about an outlook on the world and be life as a demigod, and just telling him that, but obviously since it's musical through a song and a solo of hers, and I thought that was a nice thing to show Annabeth and Percy's relationship, and just something they had to give Annabeth,
um,
just her being the
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
great character.
I agree. I thought it was a really good song. I still feel that like the Annabeth Percy like relationship, like you brought up some really good points. But I still feel like maybe that could have been emphasized like later on when they were in the back of the soup truck. Maybe like that song, but it was just a really good song. Like shout out to the lyricist and the like songwriters, but like I could listen to that song like just as a normal song, and like I really liked it.
Yeah. Oh, something on your point about hubris. This isn't really related to the Lightning Thief musical, but just wanted to touch on it. So you just sort of mentioned how Annabeth's fatal flaw is hubris, and that's mentioned in the books. And what I just realized now in ninth grade English is we're doing mythology in ninth grade English. And a big thing that my English teacher keeps on emphasizing is how hubris was a big theme of the ancient Greek myths. And characters like Arachne and Daedalus would get struck down by the gods for having too much of it. And I mean, my mind is just like blown how Rick Riordan like just snuck that in, like this deep theme of like Greek myths, but into his own characters and his own world building, and so that's brought into the Sea of Monsters, and it's a big part of Annabeth's character.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with as well. What was your favorite scene?
All right, favorite scene. So I've said this again, and I will say it again. I did really like. I'll put you in your place. It was a good sort of. I like like the capture the flag, and then Annabeth explaining how every demigod has a special skill, and then her telling Percy to stay in the bathroom, but then and you find out like it was her plan, and obviously the choreography. Also, um, uh, whatever. Uh, oh, so I like the scenes with Percy's mom.
Oh yeah,
They were
the
nice.
Sally scenes were really sweet. Because I think Percy and Rick kind of emphasize this a lot during the play, but kind of how the relationship between Percy and his mom is so like it's Percy and his mom. Well, Percy is like a very flawed character, but his mom puts up with all of that, and they have like a very like sweet relationship. And I think one thing that they emphasize a lot is like really when Percy's mom was gone, he kind of it was a really it'd be a really big hit to anyone, but especially to Percy because that was really the only thing that he had going for him in his life at the time. So I think they kind of emphasized it by like having Luke say, um, they Luke and Percy have a little moment where they're like, oh, if your mom were anywhere, she'd be in the underworld, right? And like at that moment, Percy realizes that he'll do whatever he needs to do to get to the underworld and get his mom back.
Yeah. So the Lightning Thief, like any middle grade novel, it's not just this fantasy fun adventure book. It's also a really sort of a coming of age story where Percy sort of realizes that not everything is going to be great in the world, but it's sort of what he can do to make it better. And his mom is a big part of him realizing that throughout the Lightning Thief. And so the musical I think does a really good job of showing sort of not only the action adventure part of the Lightning Thief, but it definitely shows you the sort of hidden moral story and self discovery that Rick Riordan put in the Lightning Thief in 2005.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Kind of agree about that as well. My personal favorite scene was the trip through New Jersey. I really liked the song and how the characters did that. I thought it was like a very it wasn't a very like bright and colorful and like anything else seen. kind of like an in between scene. But I really liked it. How they did everything, and they were kind of like running all over the place, and you could really see like the characters' personalities shine through because they were really in a moment where they were out of options and out of time, out of a lot of things, and you could really see like Grover like yelling food because that's like a giant character trait of Grover. And you can see like how Annabeth like sees that her plans are like ruined and her itinerary is destroyed, which is like a very big thing for her as well, like being planned and precise and perfect and having everything thought out ahead. Which is why she like really struggled during the whole like Ariden. Who's the spider? How do you pronounce the spider?
Arachne.
Arachne. Yeah, that one. But during that whole like moment with the Mark of Athena and everything, you could see how like in the beginning, she was really like thrown off and everything because she didn't have like a solid plan. And then in the middle, you could see that she came up with one, and then that was kind of destroyed. And at the end, it was her plan that saved her from Arachne, but ended with her in Tartarus, which, I mean, I wouldn't say it was her greatest plan, but it did the trick.
Yeah, I think it was really smart the way they had the solo for Annabeth called My Grand Plan. Because Annabeth, she's the daughter of wisdom. She's always thinking of the plan. She's always thinking of a plan to get them out of trouble, to defeat the next monster, to overcome the next challenge. And so, I don't know how much of like an overarching plan Annabeth really has in the books, but she definitely is always coming up for the plan to get them out of trouble. And so I feel, despite maybe that's not exactly what the song was about, the fact that it was an Annabeth solo song, My Grand Plan, was a really good title for it, because that's kind of what she does.
Yeah.
You know.
No, definitely. I feel like the way that they kind of portrayed all the characters and everything was really good. They kind of got at their like inner flaws. I just wanted to talk about like how they portrayed Percy for a second. I found Percy a tad bit odd. He wasn't like I had like read him in the books. I really liked him. He had a very like a lot more of a like funny, charismatic sense in the play versus in the books. He was kind of just like stupid. Yeah. But in
I mean,
in
he's
the
called
musical,
Seaweed Brain.
yeah. In the musical, he seemed a lot like smarter and more, cultured and like he had understood the world versus in the book he was kind of just like running into things and like bumping into poles and like being a dumb guy.
You have a feast for tuna?
Exactly. That's a good quote.
No, but okay, so like Hazel in Son of Neptune, she does say that despite how like Percy immediately starts putting two and two together about the fifth cohort, the 12th Legion, and the missing eagle, and he just sort of at dinner he sort of figures it all out by himself. And then Hazel, she immediately tells herself not to underestimate Percy, because despite how dumb he may seem and how dumb he may act, he's actually really smart, and he figures stuff out. And so I feel that's something that the musical kind of touched on. And yeah, maybe it's not the exact way you saw Percy, and it may not be the exact way anyone saw Percy, but that's never going to happen in someone else's interpretation. So in a movie, in a TV show, in anything,
TV show.
in anything,
Tweet it on Twitter. PGR TV show right now.
in anything inspired by a book, when they represent those characters that you have grown to love, they are never going to do a perfect job. And what I like about the Lightning Thief musical is that they were 100 times better than the Lightning Thief movie. And 100 is kind of like on the lower end, you know, like they might have been 200, 300 times better. Point is, they interpreted Percy, I mean, I think as well as you can do. Like, there's never going to be a Percy that fits everyone's interpretation.
But just overall, the entire like Lightning Thief musical, I feel really interpreted the characters really well. And I really love that, Sam.
Do you have anything else to say?
Well, again, I just wanted to say that if you guys haven't seen the musical already, definitely do maybe not swing by New York in order to watch it, but if you do happen to be in the rough area, do watch it. And I don't think they're doing any touring of the country or anything, but maybe they will.
Yeah, so it's going to be... So just before we go to our outro, I just wanted to say that it's going to be a while before we do a regular episode, but, you know, that's not a bad thing because next week we will be doing an interview with Sam Light, and he is the understudy for Percy in the Percy Jackson musical.
So watch out for that, you guys. And
yeah, we're excited. We're actually interviewing him today, but because time-wise, it's not going to get out on time. I'm super sorry, but you will be getting that episode next week, so stay tuned. And then the week after that, we are super excited. We're going to be doing an interview with Carlos Hernandez, author.
Carlos Hernandez.
So,
that was pretty.
So if you
Pretty good.
if you can't tell by the name or by Diego's joke, Carlos Hernandez is the author of Sal and Gabby Break the Universe.
Which was one of my don't tell any of the other Reorder Presents authors, but one of my personal favorites out of all of the presents. Just because I thought that the Latino quips that were incorporated were amazing, and mexicano, no, yo soy mexicano, entonces me encantó cómo hicieron. El humor fue muy latino. I just like really loved it. So.
Yeah, they were definitely good. Sal and Gabby, it's a great book. If you haven't read it, read it in the next 2 weeks because we're going to be interviewing Carlos Hernandez. And that's it for this episode of the Half-Blood Report. Diego, where can I find this podcast?
You can contact us with compliments, questions, or corrections at thehalfbloodreport@gmail.com.
That said, it's time for our credits. Sorry, our recording equipment is on loan from William Bachman.
My co-host here is Samuel, and I'm Diego.
This is the Half-Blood Report, the only HBR that matters. Survive till next week.